Welcome to another edition of the Scottish Sun's Set Piece. I'm Bill Leckie, with me today, Roger Hannah. And the question is, Roger, can it really only be 6 months since Celtic came away from the Allianz in Munich, holding their heads high after a heroic Champions League exit, telling everybody that cared to listen that they'd had a taste of the big time and they wanted more?
It does seem a remarkable come down in those 6 months, Bill. Celtic, well, they were on course for a treble, and it is all unraveled. They were poor toward the end of the season. If you think the calendar year 2024, 2 defeats, the big one in Dortmund and one early in the year at home to Hearts. 2025, they've been nothing like it. They've lost to Rangers. They have lost home and away to Rangers. They've lost that cup final and penalties. Now, penalties, as Callum McGrath said last night, it's a lottery. But
I'll come back to that in a minute.
You need to do more to beat Aberdeen during the game.
Yes.
You then start the season, and Kairat Almaty you would have handpicked to take on. And
one tie to get to the Champions League.
One tie to get to the Champions League, and in the course of 210 minutes, plus 10 minutes added at Celtic Park last week, plus whatever was added in Kazakhstan last night, cannot score a goal, and rarely looked like scoring a goal. And then it goes to penalties, and you're out, and it will cost you a fortune.
A couple of weeks ago, after Celtic won at Pittodrie, there was a kind of reaction that, that Celtic got the cup final out of their system. My take in my column the next day was that Celtic were still suffering a hangover from what happened that day, and it had been coming for a little while. But had they gone into the summer having won the treble, everybody would have been singing and dancing. But I think they went into the summer on a bit of a downer. They've come out of it in a downer because they haven't got the transfers they wanted. They've barely kicked a ball so far this season. There are a couple of wee flashes here and there. The 2 games against Kairat were just abysmal. And Brendan Rodgers talks about wanting transfers, and he's right, they need more players. But he brought on 2 guys last night worth £20 million, or who he paid £20 million for, in Alney Engels and Adam Ida. And you would struggle to get 20 quid for them just now. Yeah,
and also, you look at the squad, Yang, lovely lad, won't do. Not a.
You always know when a journalist says lovely lad.
Well, you know what's coming. When the manager said of him last year, Yang, bless him. He won't do. James Forrest, wonderful player, the most decorated player in Celtic's history. He's scored in 16 consecutive seasons. A wonderful servant, one of the great Celts of all time. However, at 34, he shouldn't be asked to do this.
No.
Because at 33 he wasn't, and at 32 he wasn't. So he's not somehow got better. Adam Ida for £9 million, he looks as if he should be up front for Stoke. It's not going to work for him. And on the bench last night are Johnny Kenny, Shin Yamada, who's 25 years of age, and Callum Osmond. Celtic couldn't score a goal, and the manager wasn't sufficiently convinced that any of the 3 of them
could change the game
to throw them on. So for all of these projects and development players, Celtic needed someone to score a goal last night and didn't have someone. No Kyogo, no Kuhn, no Jota, no replacements.
So, you take it back to kind of January time. 2025 has not been nearly as good as 2024.
Nothing like it.
How much of that is down to not replacing Kyogo?
Well, this is where we get into the minutiae of it. But when Brendan had a complaint the other week that things weren't happening quickly enough and he wasn't getting players in and this was terrible, you were dying for him to actually explain who he was having a go at, because it's a multi-layered issue. Now, the manager will have final say on players. So is the recruitment department coming to Brendan with a list of players and the list he's saying, no, I don't fancy them, in which case the recruitment department's not doing the job? Is the recruitment department coming with players and Brendan likes them, and he's passing it over to Michael Nicholson, and Michael Nicholson can't get the deals done? That would be a problem. Is he passing them to Michael Nicholson, and Michael Nicholson can get the deals done, and someone above Michael Nicholson is then refusing to write the cheques? That would be a problem. So we don't know where this is breaking down, but it's clearly breaking down.
And wherever it's breaking down, it's causing a massive problem. However, after the first leg, there was the huge, sack the board chance at Celtic Park during and after the 0-0 draw in the first leg. But no matter how culpable the Celtic board are, they didn't miss the penalties. They didn't fail to score across 2 games against Kairat. They didn't make the really basic defensive errors that could have actually put them out before penalties.
Yeah, and that's where I think some of the Celtic fans this morning, there will be the sack the board chance, there always are, but I think some Celtic fans will say, well, does the manager take a bit of responsibility for
He
that?
has to.
Do the players on the park take a bit of responsibility?
They have to.
Dyson Maeda was lauded last season, 33 goals, Footballer of the Year, but we've now had a run where he's gone to Ibrox and missed a chance with the last kick of the game. In the cup final, he's a chance and missed it. He had a chance.
I think so far this season he's had 5 what you would call one-on-ones with the goalkeeper against Aberdeen, against Kairat.
Kairat at home at the end of the game, and then last night 3 minutes for the end of normal time.
No, last season he's lighting a cigar on the way through, and he's dummying the goalkeeper and scoring. I'd never thought last night he looked set to take that one, and he's put over by a considerable. He's not even hit the goalkeeper with it.
And you look at the Celtic side. We spoke about Adamida. Arnie Engels for £11 million. Wow. Arnie Engels is going backwards. He reminds me, I love the NFL, as you know. He reminds me of a kicker in the NFL who's not involved in play and just comes on for the set piece. They'd be as well at the minute doing that with Arnie Engels. I watched him. I was at the game against Livingston with you on Saturday, and Brendan shuffled the team. He made 8 changes and he completely changed the midfield. McCowan, Bernardo and Engels came in, and none of them made a case to start last night. Didn't surprise me at all when he went back to Hatate, McGregor and Nygren, because they're the 3 who have impressed this season. The rest haven't. And I just find it incredible that for such a game of such magnitude, such financial importance, such a reputational importance for Celtic, as well as all the problems not scoring a goal, they actually finished with a back 4 with Colby Donovan, Dane Murray and Liam Scales at left back. I just find it incredible.
It is bizarre, isn't it? And you talk about basically Engels, you make the reference towards special teams in the NFL. He was in that situation last night and he took the 3rd penalty. I did not understand that. He's the penalty taker and he takes the 3rd penalty.
Martin O'Neill made that point on the television after the game, that you put your main penalty taker forward first to give you the advantage.
Absolutely.
He said he used to do it, and then he did say he put Henry Larsson first and he would miss. But Engels should have been there for it. I didn't understand the order of it at all. Ida is bereft of confidence at the minute. He cannot score a goal in open play, and I didn't fancy him, to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't fancy him. Engels and McGregor's penalties were terrific. Callum will have got that out of his system from the cup final, took his penalty really well. Their young goalkeeper does really well. He has done really
Celtic
well.
Fans won't think so, but what a great story for a young kid who comes on after the goalkeeper gets injured last week, and he, to come into a game like that at 21, and Celtic made it quite easy for him in normal time because they had the header from James Forrest and the chance for Dyson Maeda, but he stood up to be counted when it mattered.
Yeah, he really
which
did.
Celtic did not do, and that's 2 penalty shootouts now. In the cup final, when they could have won a treble, despite playing badly, they could have won a treble and everybody would have gone away happy. And last night, when they've got 5 kicks to get 40 million quid in the Champions League, and that's twice they haven't had, I would say, the mentality to get through that test.
Yeah, be fascinating to see what happens now. It looks as if the left back's coming in for Boca Juniors. It looks as if Aloysius coming in, the winger's coming in from Royal Antwerp. Some people will say too little, too late. I've always thought they would bring in 4 before the window. I thought a second the winger would come, maybe Jakob Brown would go ahead.
You could never have enough wingers,
and a striker would come.
Yeah.
Whether it's Jamie Vardy, whoever it's going to be.
There's a great argument.
You do wonder now. There's always, there will be people among the Celtic support shrugging their shoulders and saying, "What's the point bringing them in?"
Aye. Well, because they've got a treble to go for and they've got the Europa League to play for. Now, we had an argument in the Celtic press room on Saturday, myself, Robert Grieve, 1 or 2 others. I think Jamie Vardy would be a phenomenal signing if they pay him 100 grand a week. It cost them £5 million over a year. Over 2 years, £10 million. They paid £9 million plus wages for Adam Ida.
Yeah.
So Jamie Vardy would have goals coming out of every orifice in Scottish football, and I think he can still do it in Europa League football. Even at 39 years old, I think he'd be a magnificent signing.
Can you imagine the showbiz pages of our newspaper when his message comes up?
Amazing.
Be a double whammy. But listen, seriously, it's a bad result. So I remember after Rangers lost the UEFA Cup final in Manchester in 2008, they came into the Champions League as qualifiers at the start of the next season and lost to FBK Kaunas in Lithuania.
Yes.
And it was a dreadful time for them. It was, talk about coming back down to earth with a bump.
Absolutely.
This is Celtic's FBK Kaunas.
Absolutely, yes.
This result. This is his. But Celtic have failed before Champions League qualifiers. Martin O'Neill spoke about it last night. Remember them getting knocked out to Basel back in the day, and they've suffered other slip-ups against better teams in Kaira Almaty. I'll tell you, this is probably the most inexplicable, if that's the way of putting it, because there was not a person among the Celtic support thought for a moment that they would fail to get past Kaira Almaty, let alone fail to score a goal. Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned at the start of that Bayern Munich game back in February, where you wouldn't believe, I mean, it's mostly the same players.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe they're the same players. Because that night, they were absolutely magnificent, and it's the last kick of the ball, they lose a goal, or they're into extra time with every chance of knocking Bayern Munich out in their own stadium. And the rate that they've gone backwards at, I find, and it's how he now, Brendan Rodgers, how he steps up to the plate and gets them moving forward again.
Or how he steps down.
Well,
at the end of the season, you do wonder what this will do to Brendan's mindset about staying. It's the last year of his deal. There's been no talks. He said he would do the 3 years, and I think he will do the 3 years. I thought the best chance of him extending would be if Celtic could emulate or better what they did in the Champions League. They got to that round between the league phase and the last 16, and they were great against Bayern. And I thought if they could get there again, maybe even get to the last 16, there were signs of improvement, there were signs of development. He might think, you know what, I'm going to give this another couple of years because I think this team's going places. I wonder now if he thinks this team's going backwards, and it might start to have a negative impact on his own reputation.
Well, that's the thing, because the team's going backwards and the manager's going backwards. He can't be a hero when they're winning trebles and still be a hero when they're getting knocked out in Kazakhstan. And there's two ways. I mean, if he... Again, our colleague Robert Grieve sort of suggested last season that he would probably go at the end of this season, but he would have a kind of triumphant procession towards the final game of the season, where it would be announced kind of January, February time, seeing how they've done in Europe, and yes, Brendan's going to say bye-bye at the end of the season, and they'd march off into the sunset, carried shoulder high. But at the moment, that might be a bit of fantasy, unless he turns things around very quickly, starting on Sunday at Ibrox.
Oh, what a game that's going to be.
Yeah, now at the moment, we're talking here on Wednesday, so it's Rangers away in Bruges tonight. Not really much we can say about it, except to hope that a Scottish team gets into the Champions League. It's looking very unlikely, but if they did, it would be great for the country. However, if we look ahead to Sunday, if they say the Old Firm's a game where the form book goes out the window, both managers better hope so.
Yeah.
Because their form at the moment is jointly honking.
Celtic's form in the league.
Well, they're top of the league tonight.
Top of the league. They've won 3 games. They haven't conceded a goal.
Yeah, but they're not playing well.
They're 6 points ahead of Rangers. They're not playing the way they can play.
Yeah.
But they go to Ibrox with quite a poor record in Old Firm games of late. You remember Rangers going to Celtic Park, Hamza Egaman, remember him? Scoring that late winner. You go back to January 3-0 at Ibrox for Philippe Clement, remember him?
No.
Winning as well. So even in the League Cup final, which Celtic won on penalties, they do win sometimes in penalties.
Yes, they do.
3-3 was a bonkers game there. So Rangers last season probably had the edge in Celtic latterly. They're at home, but they're playing terribly.
Yeah.
So somebody you would imagine would get an enormous tonic ahead of the international break. If Celtic can win at Ibrox, then a little bit of Almaty will be forgotten about. If Rangers can win at Ibrox, it will relieve an enormous burden of pressure on Russell Martin. So it's, normally the first Old Firm games of the season are, you spread yourself in and it's so too important, and nothing's won or lost here. This is huge.
Massive. It really is massive for both of them, because you can't win or lose the league title in this game, but reputations could be absolutely savage.
Well, you say that. If Rangers go 9 points behind, very, very difficult to retrieve with this team.
There are other teams chasing Celtic.
Yeah.
And
St Mirren.
well, yeah. I've said since the start of the season, I've not known a season for a long time when both of the old firm were there for the taking.
Yeah.
And if Hearts in particular, I think, can get their act together, and they talk about, disrupting the Scottish football culture, this could be their season
We'll
to do
soon
it, to
find
split
out,
them up.
because we spoke about Sunday's Old Firm game at Ibrox. Rangers after Bruges, Rangers have 3 consecutive games at Ibrox.
Yes.
Celtic, Hearts, and then Hibs in the Premier Sports Cup quarter-finals. They will be potentially season-defining for Russell Martin.
No, not according to Russell Martin.
Well, according to me,
According to you.
they will be.
And I think I would take your word first.
Well, there you are. I've been in this game a lot longer.
Yeah, you've seen many, many managers off from many, many clubs.
Yes, whether they've liked it or not.
I think Russell Martin's. I said this in a column one day. I don't disagree with many of the things that Russell Martin is saying, but I think he needs to stop saying them.
No,
and just it's great for us.
It's absolutely terrific for us. Carry on, Russell.
But he is talking himself into such a corner with the Rangers fans, isn't it?
It's a big few days. I mean, we focus on the game, and we've spoken about Celtic transfers coming in, Balak Wisha, and there might be others, Vardy, etc. Rangers ins and outs will be fascinating because, I mean, they've let 3 left-backs go in a week.
Yeah.
Jefty, Yilmaz, Fraser. Igaman is going to Lille after throwing his rattle out of Pram on Sunday, and Paisley.
Surely being injured.
Dessers, I'm not sure Dessers will still be there come the window. Great interest in Greece. Bajrami looks as if he's leaving on loan. And then, what do you do? If Igaman and Dessers go, Rangers couldn't go into a season with Danilo as first choice striker.
No.
Or
Asgard.
Listen, Asgard cannot ever play in that role again.
No.
That is the worst performance by a Rangers 9 or false 9 that I think I can ever remember. And I can remember Philip Sebo. So that can't happen again. They'll need somebody, whether it's Bojan Majovski, whether it's someone else, or talk of Chris Mepham from Bournemouth coming in at centre half. They might need another left back. I think they might need 2 strikers if 2 strikers go out.
Yeah, and do you know the Majovski one is really interesting. A great signing for Rangers, but also a great signing for Celtic. And unless they're doing things very, very quietly in the background, it's one of these. For years and years and years in our game, there's always been Rangers and Celtic chasing the same guy. And he makes his choice. Where's he going to go? Blah blah blah. I'm very surprised that Celtic haven't been linked with Majovski, because he's the over the back of the centre half striker that Celtic, probably different shape of player from Kyogo, bit more muscly.
But for me, he's proven in the league he was a better bet than Yamada or Kenny or Osmond, who are the guys who clearly he's not willing to put on just now. Ida doesn't look. He got 20 goals last season. Doesn't look as if he's going to make an impact at the minute.
I still think if I was at Celtic, and people at Hibs won't want to hear this, I'd be trying to get either out the door and testing Hibs on Kieran Bowie.
Well, I've spoken to the Go Ballistic show with Chris Boyd on Monday, and I said, if you're selling Igaman for £10 million, you go and ask Hibs how much they want for Kieran Bowie. I mean, a terrific young player. He's in the Scotland squad again for the Denmark and Belarus games. He will be the biggest threat to Legia Warsaw tomorrow night in Poland if Hibs are going to turn that round and get into the league phase of the Conference League.
There's still such a snobbery about Scottish players, isn't there? At the Old Firm. They'll go and take huge risks on people from Belgium and Norway and wherever you want to look for players. And there's players sitting there.
I said on one of these shows at the start of the summer, Lawrence Shankland out of contract. Now, what would Rangers fans rather have seen on Sunday? Lawrence Shankland as centre forward at St Mirren or Othello Asgard? I said they should go and get Danny Armstrong, free from Kilmarnock, who's already scored a hat-trick in a Bucharest derby. Would you rather have Danny Armstrong or Oscar Cortez?
Absolutely.
I said Josh Mulligan, free from Dundee, who's since been snapped up at Hibs.
I like Lyle Cameron, but I think Josh Mulligan's a better player.
But would you rather have Josh Mulligan or Joe Rothwell running about your midfield?
Well, I've not seen Joe Rothwell running about yet, so...
There you go, there's your answer.
I think
there is a snobbery.
The other one I thought that Rangers, last season I thought would have been a stick one for Rangers, would have been James Penrice.
Yeah.
And he's gone off to Greece.
Yeah.
No, he might have had a fantastic offer, but I thought he would have been ideal. And so there's all these players, and you're thinking, you know, what is it about Scottish players that the two biggest clubs in Scotland?
Yeah.
I know Celtic will get there.
And they've let Josh Doig go and Lewis Ferguson go and Lennon Miller go. And I just couldn't believe it. Having had a sniff at Lennon Miller in January, I couldn't believe Celtic didn't, push the button in that in the summer, because Paulo Bernardo, his form has just completely gone.
Yeah. Engels isn't playing at all. I would allow you to play Nygren further on at a time when you don't have enough attacking players. Yeah. So, Old Firm, Sunday, two teams out of sorts, despite Celtic's league points tally at the moment, out of sorts. How does it go?
How does it go? Well, it's very difficult to tell, because we don't know how Celtic are going to re-emerge. It's been a long trip back from Kazakhstan. They do have injury concerns. Obviously, Alistair Johnson's out medium term. Jota's out long term.
Tony Ralston might now be.
Tony Ralston came off injured. Kieran Tierney can still only do 70 or 75 minutes. He's not played 90 minutes in a league game since January 2024. I assume the makeup of the centre midfield will be the same. Hatate, McGregor, Nygren, because nobody else has pushed the case yet. He's been good. Maida will play, but do you throw in Michel-Ange Balikwisha? I tend to think, if the paperwork's done, I tend to think he makes a debut.
It's interesting how many players have made their debuts in Old Firm games over the years, and you know, they just go straight into the chaos. Go on, don't even think about it. Go.
I remember Joseph Juranovic the other year making his debut and
Andy Flo
doing really well. There you go. Rangers, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in Bruges. We don't know ins and outs of Rangers. Nasser Djiga will be back after serving his ban against St Mirren in that rearranged game, or arranged game, whatever you want to call it. But again, the team lineup will be fascinating. Who plays centre forward? Is Dessers fit? Is Dessers still at the club? Does he have to pick Danilo? Because I don't think he can possibly play a false nine again. At Ibrox, an Old Firm game.
Danilo kind of is one, isn't he?
Well, it's a false 99.
False 99, fake 99. His confidence just...
And yet, he scored twice against Celtic last season. He scored the League Cup final. He scored at Ibrox at New Year.
Yes.
Bizarrely.
Until
he got that one a week or two back. That was his first goal since the 2nd of January.
Yeah. Do you know, it's one of the, you know me, Old Firm games are among my least favourite assignments of the season, but there's something incredibly fascinating about this one, just in the kind of mess they've both got each other, they've got themselves into, and how they dig themselves out of it. And does it because of the lack of quality that's there, the amount of mistakes, does it turn into some kind of weird classic where it could be one of these 3 each time type games?
Listen, you can never really predict what it's going to be. Neither of them look capable of scoring 3 goals in a game at the minute.
But look capable of giving away 3 goals.
I would definitely give you that. Selection will be crucial. James Tavernier's a better player than Max Aarons. He would need to play. I think the best. He's a
better player than Max Aarons every week and isn't playing. That's it.
You would need to. I think of a midfield of Raskin and Diamandi, who have played well against Celtic in the past, and Lyle Cameron to get about the pitch.
Yes.
You need to get about the pitch and match that Celtic midfield 3. I'm not sure that's Rothwell's bag.
So, but again, it's a bit like Engels and Ida. What does that say about the signings that Russell Martin's made? If Max Aarons doesn't play an Old Firm game, if Joe Rothwell doesn't play an Old Firm game, if Asgard doesn't play an Old Firm game,
Manny Fernandez won't play.
No. So what does that say about if you've been given this 20 million or whatever it is, and most of it's sitting on the subs bench?
Yeah.
You know, and the amount of money that could be sitting on the bench, not in days gone by, you'd be looking at the bench and saying, there's some fantastic players on that bench who can't get into that team because there's even better players in the team. You've now got guys who have been brought in for a lot of money who aren't good enough to play in fairly ordinary Rangers and Celtic teams.
I do think sometimes managers and players underestimate our league, underestimate what it takes in this league. The Rangers have had 3 1-1 draws in the league this season. And that's kind of 3 very different games and different performances by the opposition.
Yeah.
But I still believe that the Rothwells, the Aaronses, the Asgards, in their careers so far, if they've started seasons with 3-1-1 draws, they're getting pats in the back.
Yes.
Oh, listen, you haven't lost.
Absolutely.
That's a good solid start. That's a foundation we can build for here. Well done. Up here, if you have 3-1-1 draws, they're chasing you down the street.
Absolutely.
And I don't think these players quite realise what they've walked into. I've seen interviews with both Aarons and Rothwell, and they've that kind of wide-eyed look about them, as if to say,
What have I done?
And also, what do you mean a 1-1 draw is not very good?
Yeah.
You know,
That was a tough game.
They've grown up, they go to Preston, get a 1-1 draw, there's a party in the bus on the way home.
Yeah.
You know, here, if you go to Motherwell, a 1-1 draw, it's a calamity.
And the fact is that Rangers really should have lost all 3 games.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 92nd minute penalty against Dundee. Motherwell had enough chances to put them away.
So did St Mirren.
Malloy should have won.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I was sorely disappointed on Sunday that St Mirren sat in the second half and let Rangers get back at them.
And also, and don't take this the wrong way for your brave buddies, if Rangers' first 3 games of the season had been Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen and he did 3 draws, people would have been cutting them a bit of slack.
Yes.
They've now still to play Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen and Celtic and Dundee United, who were in the top 6 last season.
Yes.
You know, the 3 draws they've had are against St Mirren, who finished 6th, and 2 teams who were in the bottom 6 last season. Dundee only just staying up. They've the big guns still to play.
Yeah, Robert and I had the argument last week here about how much Russell Martin is to blame for the way Rangers are. I gave him a lot more blame than Robert does. He's put it straight on the players. I'm saying the manager has to take responsibility when mistakes keep happening the same way. And on Sunday at St Mirren, they lost exactly the same goal as they had lost in the first 90 seconds against Bruges. Simple ball through the middle. One centre half goes to sleep. John Souttar's left, hung out to dry. Can't get to the second guy. Boof, go.
Well, what I will say is, when Russell Martin leaves Rangers, and it might be next week, it might be next year, it might be in 10 years' time, he will go with that philosophy of his. He's not going to change it.
No.
I listened to him on Monday Night Football on Sky about a month after he left Southampton. And with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, they went through videos of a lot of the defeats Southampton suffered and a lot of the goals that they lost. And you can visualise it, and goalie plays it, centre half loses at the opposition score. And it looks terrible. And also one was saying, there was nothing the matter with that. What we're doing, we just weren't executing it particularly well. And so he's not going to change.
No,
the players are still
going
to do the same.
Yeah.
And he's not going to change it. So if it doesn't work, and it doesn't look as if it's going to work, then he will... There'll eventually be a tipping point for the Rangers, but at some stage, I don't think it's soon. I think they'll have plenty of patience with him. I think they'll give him a long, long time to do it, but he needs to get it right. He spoke the other day that he had the same trouble with Southampton at the very start, and then once the transfer window was closed and he had his settled squad, they then went a 25-game unbeaten run.
In the Championship,
In the English Championship. So he's now setting himself up that once the transfer window is closed and he's got his players in,
he's going to go in this long
he needs to go on a big run. And he's already found out a 25-game run doesn't mean draws, because he's had 3 draws and he's been pilloried. He needs to come in and win a lengthy sequence of games.
But if you look at, for instance, the first goal against Bruges, Giga and John Souttar are his first choice centre-halves. And between them, they make a complete pig zero of it. Against St Mirren on Sunday, Raskin's his best midfield player. He gets taken out with the first pass out of defence. The second pass goes between the 2 centre-halves. Okay, Fernandes, he's paid a lot of money for Fernandes. So it's exactly the same goal, exactly the same mistakes. And his theories aren't going to change that. His theory might be, we're doing it right, but we're just not doing it right enough.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're not going to have a plan B. He wants to do plan A better.
And that was the Ange way as well with Tottenham last season. And it got him success, but it still got him the sack. So it depends whether if he turns up a trophy early in the season.
The one thing that surprised me, Bill, it's not surprised me the way Russell Martin has played football. The results haven't surprised me. The way the players have come in hasn't surprised me. The patience that the board have shown, or continue to show, hasn't surprised me. The depth of ill will from the supporters to Russell Martin has surprised me. There is no pool of goodwill there for him at all. Many didn't want him in, and an awful lot want him out. There was a caller Super Scoreboard on Monday night saying he's lost 100% of the Rangers fans and has to go now. He can't do anything to turn it back round.
Well, there is always somebody on a phone in who thinks they speak for the entire world.
Yeah,
but I get the point, and the feeling. Time and again, Rangers after bad performances, bad results, are going to the fans at the end to give them a bit of a clap, and they're being told to off you pop in no uncertain terms. And it happened again at Paisley at the weekend. And I just feel as if at some point, no matter how brilliant a theorist you are about football, the reality is that you need to put the team out that beats the team that's facing you over the white line.
The only philosophy you have is winning games. How to win games of football.
And the one thing I'd say about Clement and Barry Ferguson is that last season, as you say, they found a way to unpick Celtic, and they went, this is how Celtic want to play. Good, let them play that way. This is how we'll counterplay them. And it worked exceptionally well. They probably should have won the cup final as well.
But as you say, a huge game. This game it's not bigger for anyone than Russell Martin. Russell Martin needs this. He needs this enormously.
Yeah, but Brendan Rodgers will be somewhere else. Even if Celtic took an absolute brainstorm and get shot of him, he would turn up somewhere else.
Aye, and also
a fairly high profile.
If Celtic
job
lost 1-0 on Sunday, it wouldn't impact Brendan Rodgers.
Still half a dozen points ahead of Rangers.
Yeah, still half a dozen points ahead. He'll get players in, and history will tell you he'll drive them forward again.
Yeah.
If Celtic win 1-0, then the hounds will be on Russell Martin.
Yeah, I think the big difference on the pitch between Rangers and Celtic is that Celtic have levels that they've set, that they've dropped below, and that they are capable of getting back to again. Yeah. They can get back to the levels of Munich. The pace they played with. They've lost that at the moment. They'll find a way to get it back. Rangers haven't had that now for a long time. As they keep saying, it's been rinse and repeat. So it's going to be usual absolute nonsense on Sunday, but it'll be fascinating to see how it pans out. Now, Thursday night, Aberdeen in Bucharest, Hibs in Warsaw. Two really, really, really tough ties. Aberdeen are going to stay in Europe because they would drop into the Conference League. Can they, after coming back from 2-0 down last week, can they get through?
Well, they can. I don't think they will. They come back for 2-0 down against 10 men, it has to be said, last week. I thought FCSB were a decent side. I like the centre forward, Berlicia. I think he can cause problems. I just think it's a bit too much to ask for Aberdeen. They've not started the season too brightly. No. Lost at Tynecastle, lost at home to Celtic. I just think they'll drop into the Conference League. Hibs, they've been great in Europe. Yes. Great ties against Midtjylland, great ties against Partizan. A good night at Easter Road last week against Legia. I just think it's too much to ask to turn around a 2-1 deficit. But they haven't let anyone down. They haven't been embarrassed. I mean, I can remember Hibs in Europe losing 7-0 at home to Malmo. There was none of that. They have shown that David Gray's built a good squad because they've got a decent bench there as well. They've got £1 million striker that can't get in the team. Table collegiate.
That's a very odd one.
So they've got a decent squad. They will be top six. They will cause problems for Rangers and Celtic and Hearts this season. But I just think in Poland it's a bit much to ask.
It's going to be a hell of an atmosphere for both of them. Do you not think last week at Pittodrie pretty much encapsulated Jimmy Tilleen's reign, where they go from right out of a game to right back into a game to, there's shambles and then they're spectacular and they're putting the fans through an absolute ringer?
Well, the 5 substitutions he made all improved the team. All of them improved the team. So that immediately makes you think, well, he's picked the wrong team to begin with.
Yes.
And last season's player of the year was Shayden Morris, who came off the bench 20 times. So how can a substitute be a player of the year last season? So he should have been in the team. So you do wonder about that Aberdeen squad. You wonder if Jimmy knows what his best team is. All the guys who finished that game last week and caused so many problems for SCSB should all be starting. on Thursday night
whether
in
they will
Romania.
that, yeah.
Whether they will or not, I don't know, but Polvara made an impact.
Yeah.
Sokler
Always
made an
does.
impact. They all
Polvara
do.
always
Kanister
does.
improved the defence. You know, they all let Shinnie when he came on made a difference as
Polvara,
well.
no matter what he does, the fans love him. No matter what he does, he doesn't seem to get a run in the team.
It's the same with Shaden Morris.
Yeah.
It's the same with Shaden Morris. So
a lot of Aberdeen fans I know are not as keen on Shaden Morris. I think he's a real game changer, but he kind of splits people a little bit.
But for me, he creates more than Keskinen or
Yes.
Milanovic. I haven't seen much of Milanovic. He's okay.
But Keskinen for me is about 5-a-side.
100%. So listen, they could get through. I'm not sure they will get through. Great if they do.
Great if they do. A manager who does know his best team is David Gray.
Yeah.
He's pretty much stuck to the same 11 through his Euro, and fair play, they've put a hell of a shift in. It takes a lot out of teams that aren't used to Europe, and I think if they do go out in Warsaw, this will be the time when we'll see how good his squad is, because he'll then look to, I think, give likes of Martin Boyle and Kieran Bowie and maybe Bashiri or whoever a little bit of a. Now he's got like a Grant Hanley come in. Now he's got his £1 million striker who I'm not convinced that he's convinced about. But there's players to come in, and we'll see how good the squad is. I still have a sneaky feeling Hibs might push this one really hard.
Yeah, well, listen, I hope they do. It'd be great if they get through. If we could get, Celtic in the Europa League. We're sitting here with an outside slim chance
Rangers being the Champions League.
Aberdeen could be in the Europa. Hibs could be in the Conference. It would be fantastic for Scottish football.
Even 3 in the Europa League and 1 in the Conference League would be pretty cool.
Thursday nights, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Rangers, Celtic and Aberdeen all in the Europa League on a Friday night, Thursday night I should say.
I know, and that's so many journalists saying, Saturday off.
Oh yeah, and that's it. The Premiership, the big games, the Premiership getting knocked back into a Sunday. It does. It makes it. It
makes the season. It gives the season a different look.
It does a real different look. But Hibs will be good. They've got strength and depth. You talk about rotation. Hanley in the Scotland squad can get into the Hibs team.
Yeah.
He's got, obviously, you can have Nicky Cadnoro, Bita on one side. He can have Hoylett or Campbell off the front two. He can put Clegia into the front two. Ellie Ewan can go into the front two. When he rotated the last time for the League Cup win at Livy, it was Chiwa and Mane in the centre of midfield rather than Levitt and whoever else had been playing in there. McGrath, I think, had been in there. Mulligan had been in there. So he's
still has like Joe Newell to come back.
Yeah, it's a good squad.
It's exciting times.
And I'm glad you had to ask me about the goalie.
I like him. I'm a big fan of Jordan Smith. And I'm glad he stuck with him in Europe last week. That's all I'm going to say in the matter.
I'm less convinced.
I know you are. What I am convinced about is that we would like you very much to, if you're watching, to like, to subscribe, and to leave us any comments you like on anything we've been talking about today. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. If your team is playing in Europe, we wish you all the best and have a great weekend. Whoever you support, whoever you watch, enjoy your football. See you next time.